Hello again, Unity of Tustin family. And tonight we are going to be exploring a spiritual principle that really revolves around power. And I want to come up with a question, start with a question that really gets to the heart of why we are all together. So think of a time when you made a change in yourself. Maybe you started expressing more gratitude or made an intention to be more patient. That's something I am currently intentionally working on. Chose to speak more kindly, or decided to really listen rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. Now, here's the fascinating part. Can you remember how that intentional internal shift affected the people around you? How did your relationships change when you decided to show up and be different? How did situations shift when you chose to respond from a different place? So take about 1 minute for reflection and 2 minutes each to share that story with someone in your spirit group. Or if you're watching alone, take a moment to really remember that experience. Because today we are going to take a deep dive into how our personal transformation becomes the catalyst for transforming everything around us. And what I love about this exploration is that every single one of us has experienced this mystery, how changing ourselves changes our world. And today we're exploring why this isn't coincidence, but actually a fundamental way that love operates in our universe. We're going to discover how being the change we want to see isn't just effective. If we take Jesus again, not as the great exception, but as the great example, we can see how Jesus was showing us that it may just be the only thing that actually works. Have a wonderful time together, and I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, welcome back to Spirit Group Story Time. And let us talk about this principle a little bit more, being the change we wish to see in the world. And I'll start with a confession that I'm pretty sure most of us can relate to. If you are at all like me, you too have a secret list of people and situations and institutions and systems that you would love to change. And I think you know what I'm talking about. If only your partner would be more affectionate. If only your colleague or friend would stop interrupting. If only your family member would be more responsible. If only our politicians would have more compassion and integrity. The list goes on and on and on. If only the world was just like me. It brings me that prayer that I just love so much. Thank God I'm not like other people. So, Arleen puts it beautiful. She says the one error in creation was that we were put in charge of our own lives instead of everyone else's. We're so much better at seeing what others need to fix than what we need to address ourselves. I really like that. I think it's a good way to put it. And this is clearly what both Jesus and Unity, what we teach in our teachings, that trying to change other people is not only ineffective, it is also unloving. When we insist that someone else change before we can be happy or we can be at peace, we're essentially saying we won't receive them as the beautiful person that they are right now. So here is where this principle becomes interesting and sometimes uncomfortable. That what we see in others that distresses us exists within us to at least some degree. And this is our unity teaching. If you spot it, you got it. That our outer world reflects our inner consciousness. And as our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, taught, that the realm of God is inside of us, and that what is within us is also what we experience outside of us. And most certainly, this is what Jesus was talking about when he said, take the log out of our own eye before trying to remove the speck in those other people's eyes. He wasn't just being sarcastic, he was teaching us the fundamental principle of how consciousness works. So this is what Arleen does with this information in this chapter. And she was, in 1970, teaching at the Thomas Jefferson High School in Brooklyn. And this is a place where violence, drugs, and despair seemed overwhelming. Students were dying, teaching was nearly impossible, and most of the staff had given up. Now, this is a really relevant example. That's why I like this book. It's actually very timeless and modern. Because to some of us, outer conditions in our collective feel overwhelming and beyond hope right now, too. So Arleen looked around and saw everything that needed to change. Society, the education system, the violence, the poverty. And she could have spent her energy demanding that politicians fix things, that systems change, that someone with power do something. And she could have stayed in that paralysis, that energy leak. But instead, she made the radical revolutionary choice. She said, I was David and Goliath was too damn big. Every place I looked outside myself, there was nothing I could do. But inside the incorruptible core of me, I was all powerful. I wanted change, and I could be it. So with just a handful of students and 2 other teachers, she began the Love Project. And instead of wanting for love to come to that school, she became that love. Instead of demanding that others create hope, she embodied hope. And in 7 months, they transformed not just the school, but the entire community. And this is where our focusing on this book started. I could now say that this is what Mahatma Gandhi meant when he said, be the change you want to see in the world. However, that's the urban legend that inspired us to focus on this book. Craig's research found in one of his prior talks that Mahatma Gandhi never actually said those words. The first person who articulated them that we can identify is Arleen Lorrance in this with this movement. And culture or whatever force attributed them to Mahatma Gandhi because they so encompassed what he was doing. But he might not have been someone who actually said them. It might have actually been Arleen in this book. So I just think that's a wonderful little story and the inspiration for us doing the love principles here at Unity of Tustin. So our unity teachings show us that we live in a universe of spiritual law. It's not chaotic. There are rules of law and grace that operate our unfoldment and evolution. And when we change our consciousness, we change our experience, not by magic, but through this divine principle, through demonstrating divinity. What we appreciate, appreciates. What we concentrate upon, we become conscious of, and what we become conscious of, we express. And this principle is being lived out beautifully right here in our Unity community. Instead of waiting for the world to become more loving, more accepting, more spiritually conscious, we are creating that reality together in this island of coherence that is our beloved community. We're demonstrating what is possible when people gather with the intention to support each other's highest good, and we are being the change we want to see, creating a microcosm of the more beautiful world we all know is possible. So when Arleen talks about love as unblocked life energy, she's describing what happens when we stop putting our energy into trying to control others and wake up those people and start putting into expressing what we want to see more of. That energy flows freely and it truly creates miraculous results. So here's what's amazing about this principle. It works on every level, from personal transformation to global transformation. During the Love Project, the group addressed smoking inequality in the school. So this is a sign of the times. We wouldn't be talking about that in this time, but when she wrote the book, that was a thing. So the students, instead of just demanding that students get smoking areas too, to kind of create equality, they started questioning whether anyone should be smoking in schools. And that's perhaps part of the reason why it's not even a question today. That one small step taken by a handful of people, being the change they wanted to see, contributed to the nationwide campaigns against smoking in schools, which then moved to airplanes, then office buildings. And we can't predict our ripple effects, but when we come together to look at the deeper why and then change it at the roots, we set in motion change of scale that we can't even imagine when we are showing up together. That is what we are moving to, from being the underground web to being the alchemists who show up. God finds a way to weave us together, and it potentiates our power to change at a much wider and more magnificent scale. So remember that Rumi wisdom. Let's let ourselves be drawn by the strange pull of what we really love. It will not lead us astray. And when we follow that pull to embody what we value, we become part of the evolutionary process itself. So here's the beautiful paradox of this principle. The more we release our attachment to others changing or systems changing outside of ourselves, the more everything around us really can transform. When we embody enthusiasm because it pleases us and strengthens us, not because we're trying to show someone else how enthusiastic we are, we actually become the alchemists that bring the magic of enthusiasm forward, that integrates into the whole field and uplifts everyone in it. As we teach here at Unity, when we align with our divine principles, we become instruments of that principle. We don't control the outcomes, but we become part of the divine activity of love expressing itself in the world. So here's the question I want to leave you with today, both for your own reflection and for community conversation. So think of something in your world that you've been wishing someone else would change. Maybe in your family, in your workplace, your community, in society, or in our global world. And now imagine completely releasing the need for someone else or some other system to change, and instead ask, how can I embody the very quality I want to see more of in that situation? And here's the follow-up question that really gets to the heart of transformation. What would need to shift in your own consciousness, your own daily choices, your own way of being, for you to become a living demonstration of what you want to see in the world. So take a moment with that. Let yourself feel the power that comes from realizing you don't need anyone's permission to start being that change, and you don't need to wait for conditions to be perfect or for someone else to go first. So before we close, I want you to remember something that's very meaningful to me. Every time we choose love over fear, peace over conflict, compassion over judgment, hope over despair, we are not just improving our own life. We are contributing to the healing of the world. We are becoming those powerful initiators of new ideas and new ways of being. We are becoming the change we wish to see in the world. So this is your invitation to step into your role as a conscious alchemical co-creator with the divine. This is how we change the world, not by demanding it to be different, but by becoming the difference we want to see. And when we do this together, as a community committed to embodying our highest core values, it potentiates this demonstrating divinity, Unity's white stone word for 2025. And there's no limit to what becomes possible. I am so grateful to be demonstrating divinity together. God bless.